Disney, like, look at me. Look at me, Disney. You can't do it. You can't guarantee people that you can accommodate their food allergies. Stop telling people you can.
Welcome back to Under Oath. In our backyard, Disney's just getting sued because of a peanut allergy, basically. I don't know if you heard it. A doctor from New York came in, asked the restaurant if this is allergy-free. About 20 minutes later, after leaving the restaurant, she died, and they said they found elevated dairy and nut issues in her system.
Tragic, really, because she was doing what you're supposed to do when you have a special condition. She's making sure that she doesn't put herself in a position where that could happen. She checks with the restaurant. The restaurant assures her, yes, we can handle this type of food allergy. Don't worry about it. And they can't. They can't handle the food allergy situation, obviously. Why does Disney, maybe we need
They
to
want to
contact...
accommodate. They're trying to accommodate.
Well, yeah. I get that you want to, and it's good to try to accommodate people, but you need to recognize reality sometimes, and I don't think Disney's doing that right now.
What if they said we can't accommodate it?
That's what I think they should say. I think that's what we should call their lawyers.
Some
and
restaurants
say,
do that.
Hey, you know what? Just tell your customers, your people who come to visit you at Walt Disney World, tell them you can't accommodate their food allergies. I'm sorry. You are responsible for your own food allergies. We can't guarantee the content of anything that we sell here. So we're not going to take on that. They don't have to take on the duty to say that we can accommodate your food allergies. They're not required to do that. But they do. And all they're doing is setting themselves up for failures like this.
My stepmother had a seafood allergy. And I remember growing up, we didn't see it. We didn't have peanut allergies. We didn't have it in the levels of, let's just say, numbers we have now. The same, I don't know, maybe we are as a species getting weaker. Maybe our DNA is blowing apart. Maybe this has to do with gluten, who knows what. But we've had a serious departure from our immunity, our issues. Allergies have gone through the roof where you're just dying now. I mean, you're just dying. I don't remember, every once in a while you heard this weird case. Now a lot of people are going down.
It happens all the time, and it never happened when I was a kid. Did it happen when you were a kid?
No.
You remember this in elementary school?
Never. And if somebody died of food, they'd call it food poisoning.
Do you remember being told in kindergarten you can't have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich because Susie Smith is allergic to peanut butter? That never happened at all. What's the difference between us as kids back in the 70s and people
I think we're not
today?
being told. I think we're not being told.
And these aren't even like kids. These are people who are adults.
Now, here's the thing for me.
They're 30, they're 40 years old. What is happening that our bodies cannot withstand this?
If I know in my heart that you can never be 100% perfect, the guy might have eaten a plate before me. It's not perfect. I mean, that there's a chance that something could go wrong. Somebody could cross-contaminate food. These are people getting paid minimum wage. They're not scientists.
Yeah.
You know, you're getting these people who, they get fired for doing stupid things on a daily basis. You're going to trust that they don't, by chance, mix a recipe up wrong?
Yeah, well, let me put that to a finer point. So the chef comes out, and the chef knows, okay, yeah, I'm not going to put any peanut butter or seafood or anything like that in any of the recipes. And I know for a fact that it's not going to exist in any of the food that is made per my instruction. But just like you said, minimum wager, guy making $10 bucks an hour, he's on break. He has a peanut butter and jelly sandwich while he's on break, comes back from break, makes this lady's food, doesn't wash his hands well enough, has a trace amount of peanut butter that gets into her food. She eats it, she's dead.
How much? I remember at a table, and I was at Comic-Con. I was at Chicago Wizard. It was called Wizard Chicago. And I'm at a table, and there's a guy who's, 50 people away. I order shrimp. He's like, I'm allergic to shrimp. I'm like, dude, the smell of shrimp? And he was like, no, but I can die from it. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't think I would walk into a restaurant where I could actually die. And I'm not talking about, I'd have to go to a place that I know has no peanuts at all. that there's never been a nut in this place in my whole life. And I think when your allergies are that significant, that other than living in a bubble, I'm not quite sure how I'm not living on borrowed time.
You are. You absolutely are. And listen, Disney, like, look at me. Look at me, Disney. You can't do it. You can't guarantee people that you can accommodate their food allergies. Stop telling people you can, because you cannot. You cannot control all of your employees all of the time. This lady might be alive today if you hadn't given her the false expectation that you can control the situation. You can't. Admit that you can't control the situation. She wouldn't have eaten there probably. She would have taken it upon herself to bring her own food. She would be alive today if you just admit that you can't control people's allergic reaction to the food that you have. You can't do it.
You know, I've seen restaurants make it very clear that they can't. I mean, high-end restaurants say, listen, you know,
that's the proper position to take. Why do you think Disney is pretending that they can control the situation?
I don't think they're pretending. I think what they're saying is, listen, if we do everything right, we shouldn't have a problem. Now, the problem is this, is that everything can't always be done right.
But they know that. Disney knows that they cannot expect perfection from each of their employees.
Are they Ford Pintoing in this thing? Are they actually saying, hey, listen, it's only going to happen so many times, and the benefit to us is going to be a lot better than fixing this problem, than going the Craig Lynd,
we
you're
can't
screwed.
handle it. Yeah, we can't handle it. Bring your own food
Sky's
if you have
falling.
food allergies.
Nothing we can do. You're going to die. You come here, you're dead.
She is. Tell that to the doctor. Tell that to the doctor's family. They made representations that they could handle this situation. They cannot. And Disney, it's not your fault that you can't handle the situation. That's not your fault. Your fault is not recognizing that you can't handle the situation and convincing other people of the lie that you can.
Here's what I'm finding out, and I think this applies across the board. This seems like a society systemic issue. When I think about this, I think somebody at Disney says, hey, listen, we can do anything. We should do this, and we need to be proactive. We need to do these things. The problem is that person is not going to hold themselves responsible for the multi-million-dollar loss that Disney's going to take here. There is nothing that's they're going to use as a defense to this argument. In Florida, it happened in Florida. You know, we have the rule where 50% responsibility, you have to prove over 50% responsibility. This person asked, it was made clear to them, and then they killed them.
Well, there are plenty of defenses Disney could have if they wanted to. Disney,
like what argument would Disney have?
Don't push those defenses. Pay this lady's family an amount of money that will satisfy them. Do not defend this.
What do you think it would take to satisfy? What do you think it would satisfy them? I mean, really, just think about it. It's an Orange County jury. Think Orange County jury to begin with.
Yeah, so an Orange County jury is going to give millions.
No, they could also be pro-Disney.
No, I don't think so.
I think over the last 10 years, nobody at Disney has listened to a lawyer. They've all allowed...
No, they want to live in some fantasy world where an ideal situation can be achieved. And can you blame them? I mean, their whole product is making people believe that they're living in a fantasy world, right? Little kids come there. There's a big castle. There's princesses. There's dragons. There's all kinds of characters, right? So you want to live in this fantasy world.
I do.
Sure, that's great for the movies. It's great for the rides, but it's not great for reality and dealing with actual real people. And when you tell them the fantasy that you can control a situation with such degree that you never have to worry about eating any of our food if you have a food allergy, that's not true.
Now,
it can't be true.
Now, what do you think the cost of this is? You have a doctor. I don't see any kids. I see a husband. I don't see kids.
Oh, multi-million. You're talking $10, $15 million probably.
Yeah.
And Disney should just pay it out and shut up and change your policy.
Now, do you even get
change your policy and say, hey, listen, if you have food allergies, please bring your own food. We don't want to be responsible for not only what our chefs put in the food, but what all of the employees do, eat, and touch as they are handling before or after they're handling your food.
Now, this is a weird thing. Here's a weird thing that happens. She doesn't get sick immediately.
Well, yeah, the defense is going to be, well, you ate something else. That it wasn't the food from this restaurant. It was food from some other restaurant.
Nor-
There's no way to prove it because the food was whatever was left of it, if there was anything left, it had long been discarded.
She says there was elevated numbers. Now, she got sick in another place. She was outside. Where was she walking? And
Was this Epcot? Was it one of
uh,
the different pavilions for out at Epcot? I think
no, she was in
it
Disney
was the
Springs.
Irish pub where they
Where they do all the dancing. Yeah.
had the food.
Now, here's the argument. She eats the whole meal. I don't know how long she was in there. I know that you don't get the check within 10 minutes. It takes a while. You're in Disney Springs. You're in this. I've been to the same restaurant she went to. It's where they do all the Irish dancing and everything. She gets in. She gets out of there. She's over at Planet Hollywood now. A lot of people don't know. Planet Hollywood to where this Irish pub is approximately about a 10-minute walk. So you walk about 10 minutes with loaded people, everything else like that. You're in Planet Hollywood. You get sick. Could it have happened somewhere else? Now, she was tested. She had this stuff in her system. At the hospital, they test her for the peanut allergy. Who's to say it came from somewhere else? And how quick should it have hit her? Normally, people with peanut allergies and everything else like that, really quick. Not 20 minutes afterwards.
Well,
But
it depends on the level of contamination, too.
But if this person is so overly sensitive that they died from it,
Mm-hmm.
that this is something that was in their system, I mean, by the time they paid their bill, by the time they did this,
Well,
an hour later you die?
She had no reason not to trust Disney. Disney's making the
It's not
representation
but
that they
an
can
hour
handle it.
later, an hour later after you consume food, if you have such a bad allergy, you die. Seems like especially when your allergy is so severe that you walk around with an EpiPen. There's a lot of
Which EpiPen didn't work, by the way.
so maybe the EpiPen was bad.
Could be. That's,
there
that's
are a lot
one
of
of the defenses that Disney could try to push.
Or maybe she didn't die
Or
from
even though she made sure to make sure that she spoke with the chef at this restaurant, she somehow lost that ability to watch what she was eating as they left, and she got a big milkshake at one of the walk-up stands on the way.
It seems
Maybe.
there's a timing issue here that's throwing me because, if you were so severely, your reaction could be so severe and it takes so long for any symptom to pop up and you consume this food.
Would you trust anybody if you knew, if your doctors told you, Jeff, you encounter just a little tiny bit of this type of protein that is found in any type of peanut product, you're going to die.
Yeah.
Would you ever take the chance
No.
that, okay, I'm going to trust this chef and all of his staff to follow his exact rules to the T?
But they promised me.
See how silly that
They
sounds?
advertise it that I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I might want to argue that because if you're her attorney and you don't know which law firm they have, some law firms are their expectations are, oh, it's Disney, we're going to get paid. We're suffering right now from what I call advertised ridiculous cases. You see like a politician have to pay $354 million over an opinion. What is a life worth? And people don't understand you're not getting that much for lives in comparison to feelings.
Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
What a phenomenon for the world lately. You can get paid more by being insulted
Butthurt.
than you can if you broke your leg.
Butthurt. I'm butthurt.
Remember that when we were kids, sticks and stones, break bones, blah, blah, blah. Where's that?
No.
It's the exact opposite now.
And here's the thing. You're a doctor. She was a doctor at NYU. Incompetence is around me 24/7. No matter where I go, no matter how good I'm at. I'm not talking about you. Stop getting sensitive. I'm talking about there's always somebody, and you and I have seen this in law firms and doctor's office and businesses. Everybody is not the highest paid employee. Everyone is not the highest compensated, the highest trained, the smartest guy. There's always going to be one dodo walking around that you can't trust.
It's situational awareness. It's the cookbook. I follow the recipe, but I don't understand why I am following the recipe. I just know to follow it. A lot of doctors, a lot of lawyers, a lot of professionals, they're just cookbook professionals. They just open the book. The book says to do A, B, C, and D, and they do A, B, C, and D, and they have no idea why they're doing it. They just know that that's how it's supposed to be done. but they don't understand the reason behind why they're doing those things.
Oh, even better. What happens when the ingredients arrive to you and they're supposedly nut-free? For example, we've got a grocery store chain,
We're talking about the cookie case now.
the cookie case. What happens is they've been getting the same cookies delivered forever, and those cookies never had any nuts in them. There was no nut issue with these cookies at all. Well, supposedly the recipe of the cookies changed. So you ever see the prepackaged stuff in like Publix or Winn-Dixie or places like that, and you see the ingredients on them? Well, some of these items they don't make. They're just sent in bulk, and then these chains rewrap them.
Right.
The same with
in
these
small
cookies.
packages.
Like if you go into like Publix, I don't see huge baking areas to be able to make enough cookies and pastries to show what's there. They don't have
You
enough.
get a barrel full of granola and you just take a scoop and put it in a box and put the Publix label on it, and then you got the ingredients.
Exactly.
Right. So that's what we're talking about here.
Well-
but for cookies instead of granola,
Well, what happens is
they ship them in bulk. 6,000 cookies all
person
in
dies.
one huge package.
Person dies from nut allergy because of the
From
cookies that are supposedly have no nuts in them.
Which,
Now, here's the thing.
did the cookie turn out to have a nut in it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a nut-filled cookie. Now, what you're dealing with is this. The company said, we sent you 11 emails letting you know we changed the ingredients. The ingredients are different. We did this. Now, let's say whatever company, a grocery store says, no, you didn't tell us.
Well, that seems like a forensic computer expert could probably tell you whether or not they sent the emails. Is the contention really only whether or not the emails existed? Or are they saying, no, you sent them to the wrong department, or you sent them to you sent them to customer complaints. You didn't send them to our produce folks. And we didn't know to change the label on the cookies to include peanuts anymore.
They were seasonal. Well, here's the thing. They were also seasonal cookies. So it was a special, they're not the cookies that are there every day either. So for me, I think if I change the cookies, I would change my cookie thing. I don't know if an email is enough, especially when I've been selling peanut-free cookies that I know that there are people out there who are buying these things.
You don't know if an email is enough? If I'm representing the manufacturer, just
No.
assume I am. I mean, a phone call, just one phone call to some random person. How am I supposed to let Publix and Winn-Dixie and Food Lion, how am I supposed to let them know, other than in writing, that the ingredients for my bulk product that they repackage and are responsible for listing the ingredients on, how do I let them know other than in writing? Why is an email insufficient?
Because I think in today's world, we know that more people are depending on this ingredients being right. When I say there are no nuts in my cookies, this is probably, I would have to say, the number one issue I might have as a producer of cookies, that I might kill people with my cookies.
So if I'm a cookie manufacturer,
yes,
and I start putting nuts in my cookies that did not used to have them,
and I know that it could kill people.
And you're telling me it's not enough for me to tell the people out there who sell my cookies that they now have nuts in them. I know that this is an issue. That's why I'm telling you, make sure, and here it is, here's the email, make sure you let the people who are buying these cookies know there are peanuts in them, because it is a huge issue. My manufacturer, if that's my client, they did what they're supposed to do.
I do three things. As the person representing, I'm going, this is such a big change in what we're doing. I might have to alter the contract. I might have to send it certified mail. Oh, it went into somebody's junk mail. Not enough. I called Bob,
But you can make that same argument for the certified mail. It got delivered to the wrong department. It went to customer service.
It went where everything else went.
A customer service manager who has no idea that we take these giant cookie trucks and pull them out, 8, 9 cookies at a time and put them in packages.
How many times do you and I have the same issue when we talk to somebody who works for us and we said, hey, have you notified this client? Client calls us, says, I haven't talked to anybody in the office. The guy says, I sent him 50 emails. I'm going, did he respond to any of them? Did he do this? We are always trying to make sure that people are contacted. And sometimes the guy goes, oh, it was in my junk mail. So we sent you 20 emails that you didn't reply to one of them. And this happened. I think with a situation like this, when you're making such a huge change, you got to make sure it's documented. It's not
I
just.
think 11 emails is making sure that it's documented. And I don't know that they didn't call, but who would they call? There is probably a procedure in the contract that says, hey, for any changes, contact us at, and then they'll have an email address. I guarantee you, if there was contact information in the contract between the manufacturer and the distributor, that they followed that notification part of the contract to the T.
I'm telling you, here's the thing with contracts. They're just orders. The food is just orders. There's not like 50-page contracts when I'm buying 500 units of cookies. It probably says here, we have an order. It's a purchase order. It might not even be a contract. It could be just a simple purchase order. So there might not actually be even a contract on it. It could be a simple purchase order. Now, here's my thing. I'm going to sue the company. I'm going to sue the distributor, which is, let's say.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's a product's liability, at least in theory. But my client didn't make the cookie incorrectly. It's not like peanuts got into the cookie accidentally. We put the peanuts in the cookie on purpose. They're supposed to be there. So we can definitively say that there was no problem with the manufacturing of the cookie. It is exactly as we intended it. You didn't take the precautions to make sure that you didn't sell it to people who couldn't eat it.
Let's say every year I do. These are seasonal cookies. Same seasonal
like
cookies.
Christmas cookies, what, like
Yeah.
gingerbread kind of thing?
Let's say they're gingerbread, you're gonna die peanut cookies. Okay. Here's the concept behind this. I've had the same recipe for 10 years. I changed the recipe. The company that's distributing doesn't pick up the change. But I told them. I don't know. I think if it's been happening for a period of time and I know that these were the cookies and these were the safe cookies for years and now they're not the safe cookies, my notices might have to be more clear. Now, as a law firm, you suing everybody. Everybody
Well, I'll tell you
in this chain is on there.
I will concede your point, because I'll tell you, if I'm representing the manufacturer of the cookies and we start putting nuts in them, I'm not going to just rely on an email. I'm going to say, listen, I want this delivered overnight to the manager of every single retail unit that you have. Every single one of them. And I want it delivered to the president of the corporation.
And I want it delivered by a guy dressed up in a Mr. Peanut mascot outfit, too.
And
so
we're going to spend $30,000 just making sure that every single store knows, every single manager knows, every single CEO knows. People who we aren't even required to notify are going to be notified.
But the weird thing about it? We're talking only 500 units. That was the total amount sold. 500 units, which is considerably 500 boxes. There are Girl Scouts who sell more individual boxes.
At that same store.
In front of that same store. All right. With that, so what do you think? I think the store definitely is responsible.
Store definitely. I think manufacturer gets a buyout on it, because they made a reasonable attempt to notify the grocery store that the product ingredients had changed.
Well, only the court and the jury will decide if it was reasonable or not.